and welcome to another episode of the Rorschach Test Podcast. I am your host, Tyrell James. Today, I got a very special guest with me, Keenon James, no relation.
We think.
we don't know. We may have to do some research. But what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Excited to see you
Mhm.
talk today and engage. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, man. Good to see you. I had to see you every day for 4 years. During the school year anyway, and we were always right next to each other because of the last name.
Hey, I knew your locker combination. I just never told you.
I knew your login combination too. That's why some stuff was missing, but I never told you.
Oh, truth comes out on this podcast.
No, what I would have done, I wouldn't have stolen anything. I would
Uh-huh.
have gone in there and copied some of your homework so I knew that I had the right answers.
I can take that one. I can take that.
So, all right. So, for everybody watching, so what I do here on the Rorschach Test podcast, I put up a series of Rorschach tests or inkblot tests, and I ask my guests what it is that they see. So, based off of what they see, I link it to their passions and to what they do for a living. However, we're going to do something a bit different today. So, Keenan is on the campaign trail. He's running for state delegate, and I am going to ask him some questions that are pertaining to him being on the campaign trail and the things that he plans to do once he gets elected. So, um, yeah, we're going to go ahead and get started with that. But before we do that, Keenan, just tell us a little bit about exactly what it is you're running for and what the duties are.
Exactly. So, Keenon James, I'm running for state delegate in District 23 in Maryland. District 23 is located entirely within Prince George's County, from the south end, which is around Rosaryville, Cheltenham area, all the way to the north end, as you would follow 301 up into South Laurel. As a state delegate, I'm focused on legislation that goes into effect for the entire state. And as a lawmaker, that's what I want to do, is want to make an impact for our communities at that state legislative level. So that's what I'm hoping to do, make an impact and represent the communities there in District 23. So we're looking at Bowie, Upper Marlboro, parts of Mitchellville, a little bit of Kettering, a touch of Beltsville, like I said, Laurel, all of that is encompassed in District 23.
All right, sounds good. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get into one of these pictures. So this picture right here. So this picture, hold on one second.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Nope, nope, nope. This picture right here. There we go. Okay. All right. So this picture, you said you saw a group of skydivers who had just jumped out of a plane and are trying to get into formation.
That's exactly what I see right there. A bunch of skydivers, literally, you know what I mean? Maybe about 10, 12 folks that are
Mhm.
just trying to get into this formation.
All right, cool. I'm gonna leave it up there just a couple more seconds just so people can figure out what they see when as they look at it. Only a couple more seconds though, because we got a podcast to do here. So okay, so here's the thing. Skydiving. Okay.
Yeah.
It takes a great deal of courage to skydive. Now, when it comes to courage, courage doesn't necessarily mean that you're not scared. Courage means that you are scared, but you do it anyway because you have something that you were trying to accomplish, right? So, when you decided to take this leap of faith, was there a certain degree of trepidation? And if so, at what point in your life did you start facing your fears?
Wow. So I would say absolutely. It was some trepidation, not sure. How do I win? Can I win? What if I don't win? Focused on those aspects. But there were points where I just said, who cares? You got to get out there. You got to run it in order to figure that out, rather than figuring out, if it's going to be a win or a loss. You just got to go out there and do it.
Right.
For me, when did I face some fears and just kind of push through it? Probably part of middle school area time for me. I had to push through some fears and just kind of make some things happen, particularly for me. When I think about that time frame for me, my brother had been killed and my parents were in the middle of a divorce, literally probably both happened within a 3-month time frame. And so
Mm.
I was, you talking about confused, shattered, didn't know what I wanted to do. It was tough. It was tough for me, but
How old were you?
persevered. I was 12 when my brother was shot and killed, and when my parents kind of separated and were starting a divorce. I was 12. I was finishing up the 6th grade, coming into the 7th.
Got you. Okay. Yeah, that's tough. Those two things that's very, very, I mean, just alone, just by themselves,
Right.
it's a lot for anybody, but definitely a 12-year-old to have to deal with. But to get hit twice like that, yeah, man, it also, but you know what though? I think it also speaks to how resilient you are, how you have been able to bounce back and still just be successful at whatever, for a lot of people, it could have taken them in a different direction.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
yeah, and you just the fact you're sitting there with a shirt on that says we can end gun violence, after talking about what happened to your brother. I mean, I feel like it's connected.
Right.
I feel that those two things are connected. So, but yeah, I actually, man, I applaud you for where you are right now and the way that you're standing. And I appreciate that because it really is an inspiration to to anybody who's watching or listening right now, to be able to push and fight through that and still make it to where you are right now.
I appreciate
Um, so, but I want to stick with childhood.
that.
Okay.
Okay.
Um, I want to talk about your imagination as a child. So again, we're still dealing with the whole skydiving
Yep.
thing, right? So when I was a kid, I had a bunk bed. I was
Okay.
the only child. Now, I mean, I have a sister, but she's by my father. We never lived together. But with my parents, I was the only child, but I had a bunk bed. But whatever. Anyway, so, but I would sometimes jump off the top bunk
Okay.
holding an umbrella because I wanted to see if I could float.
Okay. Okay.
So I want to talk about your imagination. Was your imagination wild like that? And if so, because what I was doing, of course, I wanted to float, I wanted to fly. But essentially, I could think if we look at this, if we broaden that, I wanted to take chances.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to talk about your imagination as a kid. How was your imagination, and did you want to take chances as a kid?
I was I took some chances. I was a frequent visitor to the Fort Washington emergency room as a kid growing up, and when I say that, I literally mean I think it probably broke 6 bones or so. I broke my wrist, I broke my thumb twice, I broke my ankle, I broke a rib. I was there literally one time when I broke my wrist. I walked in, and the lady at the reception desk said, call me by name. Like I was walking in, my mom was parking the car. I was walking in, and she was like, "Oh no, Keenan, what did you do?" Like literally, I was there all the time because stuff just happened. Literally, I was playing in the house, playing with a ball. I thought I was gonna catch. Next thing I know, I didn't broke a bone. I was doing some Christmas lights. I came down from the roof because I just knew I could reach all the way over there. I mean, literally. And so I wish I had that umbrella that you had. Maybe that would on
Oh,
that
it
day.
didn't work. It
It
wouldn't
didn't
work.
work. It didn't.
No, nah.
But I was always willing to just have fun. Take
Mhm,
those risks, push myself to the limit,
mhm,
because I wanted to try things. Whether I was imagining I was great or just saying, you know what, nothing's impossible. Let me just try this.
mhm.
I did it. Did I do it cautiously? In my mind, I was being cautious, but apparently by those emergency room visits, I wasn't as cautious as I should have been. So, for me, it's one of those things. Literally, I got 2 little girls now. They're like, "Have you ever broken a bone?" My daughter asked me about a week ago, and I was like, "Let me tell you about breaking a bone." So, that was me. I was willing to do it. I was willing to jump out there and do it.
Got you. Now, do you think that is what has you where you are now? You still taking chances?
I think I'm willing to take those chances. And what I also know is that even if you are broken, it's only temporary, right? You put
Hmm.
the cast on it and you're good again. And you go out
Hmm.
and you try again. You don't just think, "Oh, I can't." And so I think that that's probably in my mindset is that, sometimes you get a bump, you get a bruise, you get a break, but you
Right.
can get up and you can do it all over again.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's good, and you definitely need that type of mindset with what you're doing right now. Um, so the other thing, so I want to actually put the picture up one more time,
Okay.
and remind people. You said that it was like a group of people that they're trying to get into formation as they're falling. Now, with when you're jumping out of a plane, there are a lot of things that cannot be controlled. You
Ooh,
can't control wind, you can't control gravity, you can't control the speed at which you're falling. But even with all of those things that can't be controlled, we have still seen people be able to like come together. Like when a group of people jump
yeah,
out together, we've still been able to see them come together and lock hands
yeah,
and come down together, right? And
yeah,
eventually just fall safely or land safely, should I say.
yes.
So with what you're trying to do, you're going to have to deal with a lot. Did you say you're reaching what's about 150,000 people?
About 150,000 residents in the district.
Okay. So that's 150,000 different personalities. Again, something that you cannot control. It's like a free fall. A
Yeah, right.
bunch of different things that you just absolutely cannot control. So, what are your plans to get everybody to come together and to connect and to eventually all reach the same landing place?
And I think that's a great point. And I think that the illustration even brings that out a little bit. You're not going to be able to reach everybody, right? So
Mhm.
just as one individual, the best I can do is put out my right hand and my left hand. If I can touch those two, now they need to touch two more, and they need to touch two more, and they need to touch two more. And that's how we all eventually connect. And so for me, definitely working with a team so that we can make those connections all across the community. But for me, it's finding that common thread. Whatever got that group to jump out of that plane, there was some common thread. There was some willingness to do it. If it was somebody's birthday, if it was
Mhm.
just a desire to skydive, something was a common thread that got them on that plane and willing to jump out of it at that elevation as well. And for me, that's what I'm trying to do. As I talked about, my brother was killed as an act of gun violence in 1993. And right now, our country is in the middle of a gun violence epidemic. I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like to have the police come and knock on the door. I was the one who answered the door when Prince George's County Police knocked on the door. It was
Mhm.
the toughest day of my life, literally, to go
Yeah.
look out of that window. I see the police, and my mom's like, "Who is it?" And I'm like, "The police." And she yells back down the steps, "Well, what do they want?" I'm 12 years old. I see the police. What do they want? I don't know. I think you might want to come down on this one.
Right.
But that's what I'm trying to connect to people. We all want safety for ourselves. We want to be able to safely go to the supermarket, to go our workplaces, to businesses, to schools. And it's again just that continuity, that common thread. No matter what you're thinking about, everybody wants to be safe. And so that's
Mhm.
one of those things I'm working towards, is just making sure that we're talking about how can we all be safe? How can we connect, hold each other's hand so that we can land successfully?
Right. Man, very well put. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and get into another picture. So here, this picture, you said you saw two dancers jumping towards each other with uh, their arms going back and their legs kicking back.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll leave it there for a couple more seconds. Let people see what they whatever it is that they see. I tried my best to see what you saw, and I saw the skydivers. I
Okay.
don't see anybody dancing here though.
Okay. I see two heads there, and like I said, two arms, and then like I said, their legs flailing back, and the skirts or tutus or whatever they may have on. That's what I see. That's what I see.
Yeah, I see none of that. But it's not about what I see. So um but okay, so you said two dancers
Yeah.
and okay, my number one question, can you dance?
Absolutely 100% no. And that's probably a weakness in my own I'll say in my marriage. My wife loves to dance, and we go out to functions, and she is one of the people that can get on a dance floor and have a great time. I am so grateful that she's able to do that even without me being able to always accompany her. I try to get out there and do the best I can. Sometimes I try to find the beat, stick with the beat, do a little two-step, and then I got to go sit down before I embarrass her. So it's one of those that I would love to be a lot better in, but it's one that's just it's not my calling. It's not my calling.
Got you. Okay. So With a lot of people, and because of the perception of politicians and politics, people feel as though when a politician is speaking, that they're about to do a dance with the devil.
Okay.
So, what are some of your philosophies that are new and unique and refreshing that will be music to our ears that
Right.
will make us want to dance to your beat?
Who? Well, there are a lot of things. I'll tell you, one of the things that I'm really adamant about is hospital-based violence prevention programs. And the reason I am, and it goes back to, again, making our community safer. And the reason I focus on hospital-based programs is because 80% of the people who arrive in hospitals don't arrive there because they call 911. So just think of that in terms of all those people that show up. 80% show up at the hospital, haven't even called 911. It's only 20% of that were ambulance or were transported through emergency means. Most of the people show up because it was something that happened accidentally. They got shot. They don't want to involve 911. They just want to get there and get taken care of. Hospital-based programs pretty much focus on this solution. It's when you're in that predicament and you're like, dear Lord, if you save me right now, I promise I'll change my life. And those hospital-based programs really say, okay, right here at the hospital, we just got you stitched up. You're good to go. What can we do to help change your circumstance? Are you in a relationship that you need some way out? Do you need to look at some different housing options? Do you need to look at some economic options? Those programs are based right in the hospital, as opposed to sending with someone home and saying, reach out to this office on Monday, call this office and see if you can get some help on Tuesday. No, it addresses it right when you're in that mentality of, dear Lord, if you save me, I promise I won't do this again. And so for me, I love those programs because I think that they address those people who are most vulnerable to gun violence. That is a second incident, or even being a perpetrator of gun violence is retaliatory. And so if you can meet them right there and help make that change and the difference when their mindset is open to it, that's a great opportunity. So it involves some investments in making sure the right people are hospital-based to help address those issues and not just send someone back into the community when they may be fearful or frustrated and then have some type of retaliatory gun violence as well.
So your desire to start those hospital-based programs, is that driven by your desire to want to end gun violence? Is that where it started for you?
I think it's, for me, is to address all of those things. Unfortunately, there are so many guns out there. I don't think we can just absolutely, get rid of it. We can end the gun violence. We can address it. It's going to take time for us to systematically address it. But for me, it's the underlying issues that sometimes drive it. And it's the economics. I need a better opportunity, jobs. If I can get to a different place, a living situation, out of a relationship where I feel vulnerable. For me, it's addressing those underlying circumstances that may be there. And sometimes that means having to create, a different approach to gun violence prevention. Just like there are community-based or community violence intervention programs. Those are great too. Deal with people at their level. Don't sit there and just deal with policy and what you can do to legislate and make everything criminal and let's lock everybody up. No, let's address the problem. Let's address those root issues and those symptoms so that we can address the overall impact of gun violence.
That sounds great, man. That's amazing right there. And I was asking for something unique and refreshing that would be music to our ears. I didn't expect the song to be that good. That was because that right there is, man, oh man, we need that. We need that desperately. And it's it's one thing to try to go into the community to try to end the gun violence or just violence, period.
Right.
But it's another thing to catch the person when they are at their most vulnerable point. And that's what you're doing.
That's it. It's catching them at that vulnerable point and
Yes.
saying, okay, you made that promise. Now let's see what we can do to help you fulfill that promise. You asked, hey, save my life. Again, it's connecting our faith-based organizations as well. Somebody's saying, dear Lord, save me. And okay, well, where do you worship? Who are you connected to with your faith? How do we get faith-based? They may be the ones that help with housing. They may be able to help with job. They may be able to help with food resources. There are different things that faith-based organizations can be a part of that hospital-based intervention as well. And I think that those organizations are in our community. They're looking for a way to help too. And this is a great way to connect. And again, it's already within their mission. We're not asking to spend more money. We're just trying to connect them to the people they're trying to impact. And here's just one way for us to do that.
Okay. Sounds great, man.
I will
Okay.
also add that as a dad of two dancers, that's probably why I see those. I think I paid thousands of dollars in photography for my girls to dance. So I probably saw my weekends and evenings of taking one or the other to dance class. And I'm like, oh, more dance photos right there. Maybe that's what it is. That's so ingrained in my mind right now.
But let's talk about that. Let's talk about fatherhood. How much of being a father and a husband has influenced you to want to make these changes in the community?
Oh, 100%, at the core of who I am. It's probably the one thing that I won't say the one thing, it was probably top priority for me in considering a run and being a legislator was, I have to sacrifice some of my time in order to be in Annapolis and do the job and sacrifice and be with the community. But the piece that I wrestled with was how do I balance that out with continuing to be the committed husband and father that I am? My wife and my girls matter the world to me.
Right.
And I want to make sure I'm there for them. I want to make sure I make those dance performances. And like I said, I want to make sure my wife, when she goes to some event, she has a dance partner, whether I'm good at dancing or not, I want to be there. And so, that's one of those things that's a priority for me. But just like I said, making our safe communities, safe schools, making sure we're building generational wealth. That's what I want to do and leave a legacy for my daughters. I want them to have quality teachers. I want them to have a safe community. I want them to build off of the things that we've started and my parents started and continue to grow and develop right here where we grew up. So they mean the world to me. They mean the absolute world to me. Being a dad is a huge responsibility, but I have embraced that just like being a husband. 17 years my wife and I have been married. So
Wow, congratulations, man.
that I'm thoroughly committed to.
Yeah, that's amazing. Congratulations, man.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get into another picture.
All right.
So here you say you saw a few different things.
I do.
So we're gonna break down each part of what you saw. But you said you saw goats, you saw frogs, you saw seahorses, and you saw blue crabs. Okay, so
I did. I will say the image was reversed. So the goat, it was the other way.
This one.
If you flip it, can you flip it?
Hold up, wait a minute.
That way, I don't want the audience and you to think I'm just so completely crazy since you didn't even see my two dancers there.
But you know what though? The problem is me here. This is
see, that's what I've been trying to get across to a lot of people. No.
Well, no, anybody who watches the show knows that the problem is always me. So, okay, everybody, I want you all to look at this picture, but stand on your head because this is supposed to be the other way around. There is a reason that it's upside down, and we're going to get to that in a second. But this is really supposed to be right now, supposed to be right side up. And yeah, I just messed that all up. But yeah, everybody just stand on your head and look at this right now. And upside down. But you know what though, even with it like this, I do see the crabs, I see the seahorses,
right?
I see the frogs. The frogs are at the bottom in the middle, right?
Yep.
And the goats, I don't quite
so
see.
If you took those two seahorse, those would be the horns. The yellow there would be the two eyes. It then goes down to the goat's mouth there. There are three dots, and then getting into the quote unquote.
Got you. I had to turn my head to the side. I see
there There you go.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right, everybody. You can get off of your head now. So all right, let's start with the goats. Start with the goats. Okay. And since we're starting with goats, let's go back to being a kid.
Okay.
You see what I did there? Goats, kid. Good.
All right. I got it.
Okay. All right.
Dad joke of the week. Dad joke of the week. We got you.
Exactly. Yep. Okay. So goats are actually herd animals. So if you separate them, if you have a goat like by themselves, they will actually become depressed. So back to when you were a kid, did you feel as though you had to connect to people? And whether it was for emotional, psychological, any type of peace, or just out of loneliness, just needing to have friends to play with, did you for whatever reason did you feel as though you had to have that type of connection to people? And if so, do you think that eventually led you to wanting to connect with people as an adult, and which essentially led you to where you are right now?
Yeah, I think it was a combination, to be honest with you. I distanced myself a lot from people for a long time. I think that my parents' divorce and then my brother being killed at the same time caused me to lose trust. And I lost trust in relationships because for me, at any moment they could end. And so that was real difficult for me for a while, was to connect to people because I just lacked the ability to trust that they would always be there. That has been a struggle for me. But later on, I was able to start connecting and doing better things in life, and really finding those connections, and have continued to do that more and more in adulthood, whether it's in college and joining a fraternity and being in SGA. And I was in all kinds. I mean, I'm the type of person that's in all kinds of groups. I'm president of the PTO at the same time on the HOA board, and I'm doing this at church, and I'm connecting with people. And so I've learned to really build those relationships and understand how those relationships can help support and get me through a lot of different things as well, because it's very resourceful.
Got you. Okay. So I'm gonna put the picture back up again. So the other thing you said, so you say you saw frogs.
Yep.
Okay, those are the two little green things at the bottom, which should be at the top if I would have done my job right. Frogs, they leap, they jump around, right? So I want to talk about, like, after college. Did you find yourself just kind of jumping from one thing to another, trying to figure out what you wanted to do with your life, or did you know?
I think I knew what I wanted to do, but I jumped around from different positions. So, it's kind of almost having that millennial syndrome, as some people say. Millennials don't stay at a job more than 5 years. That's probably me. I jumped around. I was at DOJ for 2 years, and I went to HHS for a couple of years. I went to the Sheriff's Association for a couple of years. I then went back to Justice for a couple of years. Then I went to work with NOBLE, National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, for a couple of years. So I knew what I wanted to do, but I knew that in order to get to that end place, which I still haven't figured out what exactly it is, it requires me to jump around and not just stay stagnant and wait for opportunities to come to me. I've got to make a leap of faith, like I said, whether it was for my family. It's funny, my wife and I laugh about it, but when I decided to take a job in North Carolina, and we were living in Maryland, I had called her, and she just said, yeah, let's do it. And I was like, oh, I hadn't even asked my question. She was like, I was talking to my coworker. I was like, oh, well, I got my answer. I just applied to this job and they offered it, so let's do it. So that's how we ended up moving to North Carolina for 5 years. So it was one of those things where I know where I'm trying to go, but I also recognize that as I move up, I've got to take those leaps of faith. And sometimes it means packing up the family and moving to another state, moving here, moving there, leaving the comforts of my job, not because I'm frustrated, but because, like I said, I got comfortable and I didn't want to just stay comfortable. I needed to do something that was going to help me turn it up and do a little bit more.
Got you. Okay. So again, we'll put this picture back up here. Other thing you said, you saw seahorses.
Yeah.
Seahorses. Okay. So seahorses are very unique in that they are the only species. Well, they're in sea dragons, but they are very close relatives. But they're very unique in the males. They are the only species where the males actually carry and birth the children.
Ooh.
I know, right? Yeah. Thank you, God, for not making me a seahorse. But I want to ask you how important it is for you when you are, how important is it for you to be very unique and different when birthing new ideas?
For me, I think that's what I want to do. I always want to see if I can think outside the box, wherever that box may be, and approach things such that people hadn't really thought about it that way. And they kind of then move around and say, that might be achievable. That might be doable. So for me, coming at things with a newer approach or a new perspective is always important. Recognizing what somebody else may come to the conversation with, but saying, hey, have you thought about it like this, is something that for me is real important to make sure. And that's to try to just enlighten people and see things from a different perspective so that we can come to some new ground.
Got you. Okay. And finally, you said you saw blue crabs. I think that's the easiest thing to see here. Well, for me anyway. But you see the two blue crabs on the sides. So, politics.
Ooh.
Crabs in a barrel.
Mm-hmm.
So, how tough is it? How difficult is it for you to not get involved in trying to pull somebody else down in order to elevate yourself.
Yeah. That is, it's one of those things where you try to say it's easy, or I'm not going to get into that. And I've been able to pretty much steer clear of that. But one of the things that I have found is in order to be successful when campaigning and talking to voters, you have to distinguish yourself. And in order to distinguish yourself, it's not that you have to necessarily push somebody down, but you definitely have to lift yourself up. And so you got to highlight your qualities. And sometimes highlighting who you are and what you bring to the table means overshadowing and pushing somebody else down, not because it's you want to, but it's just saying, hey, I'm the better person because I come to the table with legislative experience. I'm the better person because I come to it with this type of knowledge. Here's what I've done. Here are the connections I bring. And it's not that I'm pushing someone else down, but I got to do a whole lot to make myself reach the top. And so you try not to get into the mud, but like I said, even if those that, even when you walk through mud, you're going to get dirty. So it's there, and it's not necessarily pushing somebody else down, but it's definitely having to feel like you got to push yourself up. And sometimes in order to push yourself up, the leverage is other people that may be running against you.
Yeah, that's true. You what you want to do is you want to just highlight your achievements. That's it. Highlight your plans, highlight your progress, highlight, everything about you. And if it's one of those things that seems to just overshadow what another person is doing, they could take it as a slight. And then they could start, or if you just happen to get a little too big, now they got to start pulling you down. All right.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So, has that happened yet?
A little, not a whole lot. And as we get closer and closer in, I would say I'm predicting that it probably will happen as we get close to that July 19th primary day. I anticipate it. I mean, because somewhere you got to start to set yourself apart if you haven't already. And so, whether it's in the lead or trying to pull up, I don't know where it's going to be, but I anticipate more and more that as we get closer, it's going to start to happen.
Right. And you said there are how many seats here?
So it's in the district, there are 3 seats, and there are 10 candidates running for those 3 seats.
Okay. All right. So we got 10 people going for 3 spots.
Correct. So, our voters, they get to pick 3. So, which 3 they pick. And so as you're talking, how do you distinguish yourself? How do you come out to the top for those voters?
Right.
You got to figure out a way. And in order to get to the top, you got to highlight who you are that makes you different and distinguishable.
Right. Okay. Cool. Sounds good. So the reason that these other pictures that one picture was upside down, the other pictures are upside down as well.
Oh.
So this is a part of the show that I call Flip the Script. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, of course, the pictures are turned upside down now. I'm going to put up each one of the pictures that you've already seen just upside down.
Oh.
I want you to tell me which one of these pictures you want me to tell you that I see.
Okay.
Okay. And then based off of what I see, I'm going to ask you a question that is completely unrelated to what we've been talking about. Okay.
Okay.
Now, I'll say this. Even though these pictures are already turned upside down over here, I have not really studied them. I purposely won't study them because I want it to be in real time. I want to say, okay, this is what I'm seeing right now. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put up each one of these pictures. Just tell me which one you want to use. Okay. So
not that one.
You said not that one?
Not that one. This one.
This one. Okay. All right. So what I see here upside down, it looks like in the middle, I see 2 horses. I see 2 horse heads. And I guess in front of each of the wow. It's crazy how it just starts to come together. You know what? It looks like 2 horses chasing a bunch of people. Like it just like all I just see like all of the little the black dots. I guess they're big dots though, or they look like black clouds or whatever. I don't know, but they look like heads of people, and it just looks like they're all running from the horses.
Okay.
Okay, so now I got to figure out a question to ask you based off of that. Okay, a bunch of horses chasing. Yo, have you ever been chased home?
Yeah, I know exactly which dog was that first time to chase me home. Shoot. Now that you mentioned it, yeah, I got off the school bus and yeah, buddy.
No, tell the whole story. I want to know how that went.
Yeah, I mean, get off that school bus, you see that dog that don't nobody else know or recognize, and you're like, yo, you just running. So what should have been maybe a 3-minute sprint, turned into about a 20-minute zigzag, trying to get home. And I clearly remember it. That book bag never was heavier in my life, but it took like 20 minutes to get home instead of just being able to go straight down because that dog was going and you're trying to hide. Is he there? You dart out, bam, there he is again. So I remember that dog.
Was it a big dog?
As far as I was concerned, it was a moose. It was the size of a moose, okay, and it had the bite of a dragon. That's as far as I'm concerned. That's the way my memory. That's the way I would call it. That's the way the story is gonna go. It was as big as a moose, and it had a bite of a dragon.
Got you. I've had my fair share. Well, not it hasn't been a lot, but look, one is enough.
Right.
I had I actually so this is pretty it's sad and what's upsetting and funny at the same time. But I was with two of my cousins and we were like they wanted to go no, I'm sorry, it was one of my cousins and his friend and we wanted to go to his friend's house. But in order to get to his friend's house, the proper way to get there was to walk all the way down the street and all the way around the block. They didn't want to go that way. They wanted to cut through people's yards. I didn't want to run through people's yards. So we ran through one yard, which happened to be the yard that was connected to my cousin's house. So we got through that yard, and my nerves were like too much, and I was like, I can't do this. I can't keep doing. Yo, I was a really good kid. Like I didn't do anything bad, right? So I was like, man, I don't want to do this, right? So I said, I'm going back. Now I could have just turned around and gone right back through the yard, but instead I went all the way around, right? So as I'm walking, this guy pulls up in a blue van and he's just looking at me. And I look at him, and now I'm getting real nervous and wishing I just would have ran through the yard. So I started to speed up. I started to walk a little faster. As I started to walk faster, he sped up. I slowed down. He slowed down. I started to run. He sped up. I said, oh, he's trying to kidnap me. So I jumped into somebody's yard. When I jumped in, so that's the upsetting part. Here's the funny part. When I jumped into their yard, their dog started chasing me. I jumped back out the yard, and now the dude is right there in the truck. And now I'm like going back and forth between jumping into the yard and then jumping back out onto the sidewalk until I finally got to a point where like I just started running. I hit the corner and then ran down the street and then went down, told my uncle. And then I think my uncle went outside with his gun or something. I don't know. Anyway, so that dog ain't catch me though. Neither one of them dogs caught me. So that was what was important there. But yeah, man, that getting chased by dogs. So I got a couple of them, man. I ain't play that. Now I love dogs.
Right.
Yeah, I love them now, but back then. And the crazy thing is, it was a tiny little dog, but in my head, it was the size of a moose and had the bite of a dragon.
That's the way I see it too.
Yeah, so
that's the way I see it.
All right, man. Look, I got some other pictures here. Okay. I want you to tell me exactly what it is that you feel when you see this picture. Okay.
Okay. Oh man. Proud probably at that moment in time for me. Pretty proud of what I was doing and ready to achieve. So yeah, I think I was pretty proud at that moment.
Cool. All right. What about at this moment?
Trying to figure out why I didn't get a haircut. Is the first thing I think about. Emotionally, I'm like, really, your shape up looks horrible, kid. So that's what I'm thinking immediately.
Well, it's funny you say that because
yeah. So I was growing it out at that point, trying to figure out my identity. What did I want to be? How did I want the world to see me? How did I want it to be interpreted? So, yeah.
Now, unfortunately, I can't find our senior yearbook. So,
Oh, man.
I don't even have that picture, which is
That's
probably the best picture. Now, the funny thing is this. In each one of those pictures, you and I are next to each other, of course, because of the last names. But if you notice, I'm purposely cropped out of these pictures because they don't need to see what I look like.
Oh, okay. Well, to the audience, feel free to reach out to me. I have all 4 of those yearbooks, and so I can provide that photographic information if needed. I can definitely do
that. Man, yo, we have. I feel like we have just gone through everything pretty quickly, man. This was, I typically my podcast, they last between like an hour to an hour 10 minutes. We're right up at the 41 minute mark here, and we have covered everything. You have been so on point. And you know what's funny? As I was asking questions, I was thinking to myself, yo, this almost sounds scripted because you are too on point with everything that you're saying. Like, you just, as soon as I said something, I was like, yo, does he know my questions? Like, yo,
I didn't know the questions.
No, you definitely didn't know the questions. But then I started thinking, well, you know what? You're on the campaign trail, so I expect this. You're used to people just hitting you with questions, and you got to be ready. That right there, I don't know if people quite understand the amount of stress and preparation and time and loss of sleep, loss of time with your family, probably loss of appetite at times, or even wanting to eat, but you can't because you have other commitments and things like that. There's so much that goes into being on this campaign trail. So when I come across somebody like you, I want to highlight the human side. I don't want people to just see you as a politician. It's because like I said in the beginning, politics, it has such a negative connotation with so many people because so many of us have been let down over and over and over. So when you come across somebody like you who has all the integrity in the world, I'm gonna tell you something. So for the 4 years that we were in school, the only things that I ever knew about you were that you were, I mean, of course we were friends, but the things that stood out the most were how genuine you are, how smart, how incredibly intelligent you are, and just how you always carried yourself with integrity. And I can't remember, I honestly can't ever remember you being sad or upset about anything, especially now that I know, because I had no idea that your brother was killed. But now that I know that you were carrying that type of pain and the fact that you never put that on display, I think that just speaks volumes to the man that you are, to the young man that you were back then, and even now, with to the man that you are now. So, of course, we graduate high school, we go a period of time without seeing each other, without communicating, and then we saw each other at the reunion. And I remember the very first thing that came to my mind when we spoke was, Keenon is still the same. He was still the same. He was still the same great-hearted, just genuine, full of integrity, intelligent man that you were in high school. And I appreciate that, especially since we were always next to each other. I could probably soak up some of that stuff from you. So, so I just want everybody listening to understand, when you vote for this man, this is what you're getting. This is what you're getting. I have a couple of friends that are running for office. I just interviewed one last week. I'm not putting my name on anybody that I don't believe in. I'm just not. I'm not doing that, man. But you, unfortunately, I am still a DC resident, so I can't even vote for you. But I will do whatever I can to make sure that everybody who can vote for you will.
Yeah, and that's what's important. A lot of us know somebody who lives in that district. I meet a lot of people who live in the city, or they even live right outside of the district that I'm running to represent. But I'm like, well, do you know somebody who lives in Bowie? They're like, yeah, my cousin, my sister, my aunt, my brother. You know, do you know somebody that lives in Upper Marlboro? Yes. And they want to know from their own friends and family and connections. Well, here's somebody I know who's running to represent, and I believe in this person because of those things that you just said. Integrity matters. It's something that goes a long way. It also says it's a real person, not just a name on a poster as I'm riding down the street or just a name on the ballot. This is a real person, real story who is really lived a life of integrity, like you said, and has said, look, I want to be somebody who stands up. I want to be a voice. I want to be a advocate. And I think that that's what people are looking for right now, too. Like you said, they don't need any more politicians. Politicians are just debating stuff. They need people to be advocates for them. They need people to represent them. They need people to do something. And so for me, that's what I'm all about. I'm ready to do something. It's one of those things that I really take away from my experience, having gone at one point. My area of expertise was police shootings. And so I went to Ferguson, Missouri. I went to San Francisco after young man Mario Woods was killed. I went to St. Anthony, Minnesota after Philando Castile was killed. I went to all of these communities, and they were all frustrated in particular with the police. And then we would have these discussions, and I would then get to a point where I would narrow down what's the real issue. And what's the real issue? Because I'm listening. Because again, you can keep taking medicine for symptoms, but you're still going to be sick. You need to take care of the root cause of the problem. And a lot of times the root cause of the problem, it was the law. And if they really wanted to make a change, it wasn't to the police officers or the police department. It was to the law. I think about it now when we think about disparity in sentencing for powder versus crack cocaine. And we've known this for 20 years.
Yeah.
The police didn't make up that rule. That's what the legislation and the law says. So if you really want to be mad, it's the lawmakers. And so that's where I want to put my energy in understanding, well, what's the process? And now I understand the process. Let's make the changes where it needs to be, not just addressing symptoms, but man, you know, I need to take it for exactly the pill for the illness that I have. And I'm trying to work towards addressing some of those illnesses, as I talked about earlier with hospital-based programs. When you get in there, it's like, how can we change the situation so you're not in this anymore? Not just how do we bandage up your wound and send you back out there and say, be careful. But no, how do we make those changes? And for me, that's what I'm focused on. So I'm looking to get that support in District 23, representing those communities so that we can increase our school systems, their funding, making sure our kids have educational opportunities, making sure our teachers are invested in, our students and our buildings are invested in, but also community safety and generational wealth building. And that wealth building is through healthy initiatives and making sure our physical being is healthy, but also our financial and mental health is in a great place as well. So, I mean, I want to touch on all of those things. I know I can't do everything by myself either. Just like those skydivers, I got to get in formation with some other folks. I got to reach out some hands. And so I got to connect with some people that have some of those similar qualities so that they can jump in there and help as well, because we can't be those crabs in a barrel and just pushing down on each other. We got to work with each other so that at the end, we can dance that dance together. You see how I took all those images, I put them all together and told you a story. That's because I'm on a campaign trail, and I know I got to relate to people and connect people so that they understand how things come together. That wasn't scripted. I just took what we talked about, put it all together, because that's who I am. I'm going to make it make sense to you, even when you didn't even think the message was for you.
And that's why you are the GOAT. You left that one out.
Wait, close that one out. I'm ready to say nothing else.
All right, man. Well, look, we're about to go ahead and get out of here. But before we do, I want you to just let everybody know exactly how they can get in contact with you. Also, any events that you may have coming up. Now, this is going to air on the 16th, Thursday, the 16th, I believe that is. So any event that's after that.
Yeah, no, not a problem at all. First and foremost, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate being able to sit down with you, had this conversation, really, give the audience the opportunity to learn more about me. And you can definitely learn about me, my campaign, my platform at KeenonForMaryland.com. That's KEENON FOR Maryland.com. You'll find out more information about me. You'll find out things about my health initiatives. I am an avid marathon runner. That's one of those things I like to do early in the morning, clearing my head out there, no music, nothing, just running. And that allows me to build my health, but it also allows me to clear my head. And I think that's a great way for our community to just get out there and walk, do some things. And so you'll learn what I'm doing in those areas of health, and mental health as well, supporting others as well. And you'll see all that platform information, but certainly on social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. My girls have got me. I've got a 5th grader and a 3rd grader. They got me on TikTok. So Keenan for Maryland across all of those platforms is where folks can reach me. But please do encourage those people that you know that live in Upper Marlboro, Bowie, Laurel, like I said, Mitchellville, parts of Beltsville. Encourage them to find out about me, but most importantly, to vote. Early voting starts on July 7th. Primary day is July 19th. We've got events that we're going to be participating in for Juneteenth that will be coming up. Father's Day, I'm going to actually make about Father's Day. I'm going to dial it back for Father's Day and be committed to hopefully getting more than just a tie and some cologne. I'm hoping. I got my fingers crossed. But my girl's been working hard on the campaign trail for me. So I'll take whatever gift they award me this year. So we've got those events coming up, and we'll be celebrating the 4th and others. But most importantly, we'll be out canvassing our community. And so whether it's myself or some of those people who are on my Keen team, hey, take the opportunity to hear us out, engage, find out more. And most importantly, we'd love to earn your vote, earn your support in representing the 23rd District in the Maryland General Assembly.
Now, I have an idea. All right.
Okay.
Now, I'm not your campaign manager or anything like that. I just have an idea I just want to throw out there.
Okay.
You said that your girls have you on TikTok. Maybe if you do some of those TikTok dances, you may be able to get some more votes. You know, people may see you as relatable. Like, he can't dance, but he's relatable because he's dancing on TikTok.
The problem is the dance wouldn't look very good at all. It'd be a bunch of outtakes. But we can talk about it. We've actually got some. I think I've deleted those off the phone when the girls were trying to do those, because I was like, oh no, don't put that out there. But it may be worth putting out there. So follow us on TikTok. See if we put out something there that you're like, I wonder if you could do, or even send us a challenge. Send us a challenge. We'll see if we can make that happen. So Keenan for Maryland, put us out there. Let's see what we can come up with.
Yes, Keenan from Maryland, man. That's great. All right, look, before we get out of here, I got one more picture for you. I want you to tell me exactly what it is that you see.
Okay. It's nothing. It's just saying something about this candidate is so dope. That's what I got.
You know what? And I'm going to go with that. And I couldn't agree more, because this candidate is so dope. Now, I'll also say that this podcast is so dope. However, this is about you. So yes, this candidate is so dope. And yeah, man. And I just appreciate you for being you, man. I appreciate you for your integrity, for the changes and things that you want to make in the community, for your honesty, for just being genuine, for being relatable, for never covering your paper when I was trying to copy off of it during a test.
I got short arms. That's all
yeah, plus you didn't know what I was doing. So but yeah, man, I just wanted to thank you. Thank you for your time also, man. So yeah, any last words for the people?
Shout out to my classmates in the class of 1999 at BMHS. Love you guys all the way. Even when it takes 20 years for us to get back together, it's as if it was just yesterday that we were together. So definitely appreciate that. Love you all.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. And for everybody else, y'all be good to each other.
All right.